And now, it's time for the Bod Rap Pod with your hosts, Damone Carter, David Ma, and Nate LeBlanc.
All right, Bod Rap Pod. We are back. Every week we have interviews with people moving and shaping the culture. Today is no different. Joining us in Zoom, we have illustrious MC, Vast Aire, who you might know from Cannibal Ox fame and his slew of other releases. How's it going, man?
Peace, man. Yo, man, you know, we in the lab right now working hard, about to mix down some joints, and we glad to have y'all here.
Awesome. Thank you for
shout out to the team. We at Space Lab Studios, you know what I mean?
Oh, it looks wavy in there. We got the lighting and everything.
It's wavy, you know what I mean? I'm gonna move the camera around so y'all will be able to see stuff, you know what I mean?
I low-key thought y'all was in the strip club when I first seen the lighting. It set off different things for me, but
right now I'm about to be like, yo, word up.
Cool. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. You're New York bred MC. Who are some of your influences coming up, and who really made you want to become a rapper?
Wow. De La Soul. I gotta shout them out. I gotta shout out Rakim, Eric B and Rakim, Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy, EPMD. The list goes on. BC Boys, LL Cool J, you know, all of the classics that I could go yell, you know. I'm a Mount Vernon. I was born in Mount Vernon, so I gotta shout out Pete Rock and CL Smooth, and I gotta shout out Heavy D. So yeah, Heavy D and the boys, you know, shout out to my brother Pete Rock. We need to work again. Let's go. Let's get it popping. Yeah, you know, all of the classics that you think you can name off, they all inspired me in some way, shape, fashion, or form. And I'm indebted to them, definitely.
Dope, man. Thank you for that. You know, we want to jump right into the celebration of Cold Vein. And I want to talk a little bit about Iron Galaxy, because I think in many ways that's the first introduction of many people to Cannibal Ox. It was released as part of a double single type thing. What do you remember about the construction of that song specifically and how it sort of set off the album?
Wow. Well, it's interesting that you bring up Iron Galaxy, because any of the fanatical Cannibal Ox fans knows that Iron Galaxy was part of like a trio. It was part of like a triple single that we had blasted to college radio. Okay. If you was the shit in college radio, you got this package twice. Okay. And we wanted you to play it, and we knew you was gonna play it. And Iron Galaxy was like such an underground hit. It was paired with Pigeon, and it was also the third song was Metal Gear. All right, for all the real Can Ox fans, if I say Metal Gear, the room will light up on fire. So, you know, that's like real old, like, you know, we were running with Company Flow and the Indelible MCs back then. Okay, so shout out to Gene, you know, shout out to the Juggernauts, Mr. Len, BMS, Jay Treads. I love all of them. You know what I mean? So just putting that song together was important because it's the symbol of us. It's us. Like our crew's name is Crimson Guards, but the overall name is Iron Galaxy Click.
Okay.
So IGC the Iron Galaxy clip. You know, Iron Galaxy is like a philosophy. So that song was important, and it's so important. That's why you came at me with it first, because you understand the importance of it. You know what I mean? That's it. Every artist has that song. Every artist has that one song that says that's who they are, that's what they're about. You know what I mean? And that's what Iron Galaxy did for us. You knew from there on, nothing was going to be regular.
For sure.
That's a really good way of putting it.
When that song faded out in the end, you understood, nothing is going to be regular after this moment.
Absolutely.
This is what Cannibal Ox represents. Iron Galaxy, a hard surrounding. We came up with a cute way to have fun with the rock in the hard place metaphor. We said, "Fuck a rock. This shit is iron. This shit is cast iron." You know what I mean? So we're in between a piece of iron and a galaxy. So that's how that came about, you know. We wanted an expression that just represented our hood, our country, us being Black men, you know, growing up in urban inner city youth in America, in New York, in the East Coast. We wanted one phrase, and it was like Iron Galaxy. That's it. We are in an iron galaxy. It's an expression for just going through life. And life is hard. What's harder than iron? You know?
Absolutely.
I could try to make adamantium galaxy. I don't know. Yeah. That could be like a remix or something. You know what I mean?
Vast, it's awesome to speak to you. I love it when rappers' real voice, their speaking voice, correlates to their rapping voice, and your voice is unmistakable.
God bless all of y'all. I'm not making my voice up. You know what I mean? And shout out to the dudes that happen to do that. You know, I'm not
have a rap
I'm
accent.
not shaming them, but yeah, me and Sadat X, Biggie, Q-Tip, we all use our real voice, man. So.
Yeah. On that tip, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your verse entrances. Like, to me, you have some of the best, most audacious first lines or first couplets in the game. And I'm thinking of tracks like B-Boy's Alpha, where you're saying some pretty wild stuff. I guess what I want to ask you is it always the first thing you write, or do you kind of reverse engineer the verse entrance as you edit?
I can. It's possible. It's possible for me to reverse engineer something. But most of the time, I know what I want to say first. Like, I feel like the most important part of the song is that first 4 bars. Like, I gotta draw you in, and I gotta keep your attention so you can get to 8, 12, and then finally a solid 16 or a 24, you know. But I like what you said. I can, and sometimes I do. I'll say something and be like, nah, this is the beginning. Like, I gotta bring this back up top. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely.
That's dope. Thanks for giving us a little bit of that science. I'm thinking about what you just said about nothing is going to be regular after Cannibal Ox was formed and you guys started kind of making your assault on the world. Can you talk a little bit about that particular time in rap? And because I'm thinking when I encountered Cannibal Ox, I was like, oh, there's some different shit out there. Because it was that was definitely a time of a commercial radio had its hold on hip hop in a particular way. And I felt like Cannibal Ox and all the other MCs you named that you were running with were kind of different on purpose? Was that part of you guys' ethos of saying like, we are not going to be what's out there?
I mean, I think speaking for myself and just speaking for the rest of the crew from what I know of them personally, I don't think we define ourselves with something outside of ourselves. I think we kind of would vet among each other, among our peers. And even, you can clash with peership also. I respect you and I'm going to have to disagree. If I think a beat is hot, I'm going to find a way to do a song with it. And I think us all having that type of mentality of us believing in what we create, I think that's where we draw that attitude from. It's like a self-assurance that we love the music that we do. We have an idea of where it should go. There's a beginning, a middle, an end. There's a process, and let us go through that process. So I would say it's less about what's going on outside. It's more about us pushing ourselves because we were touched by other artists that pushed themselves. There were other artists that pushed themselves, and that music got to us, and we said we want to do that one day. And I think that's where we draw that from. If you've ever heard that Right Stevie Wonder song, if you've ever heard that perfect Fleetwood Mac or Stevie Nicks song, if you've ever heard that perfect Otis Redding song, that perfect James Brown song, and I gotta shout out my homie that I met in Texas, Little Richard. If you've ever heard, yes, Little Richard, for the record, is a Cannibal Ox fan and friend. So let's put that on the record. God bless them. But yeah, if you've ever heard them in their perfect state, it's like, it's gonna break you. I don't care who you are. You're gonna get broken. You're gonna get touched. And I think as artists, we wanted to do that to people. And I'm glad that people have reached out to me and have let me know. They dropped their pride. They put down their armor and said, yo, you touched me. I heard what you said. And that's real. That's human. That's real.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that, man. Well, you broke down Iron Galaxy a little bit. The next track on the album is Ox Out the Cage with LP. And we would be remiss not to sort of bring up LP's vision, his production prowess on this album. Can you sort of let us know your history with LP and kind of how you guys met?
Oh, yeah. Pretty much, like I said, I was repping I was repping Adams Fam at the time and Iron Galaxy Clique, which is Crimson Guards. And we all got real close with the Juggernauts. So I was close with the Juggernauts for like 2 years. And through that connection is how I met L. Because the Juggernauts were working with him as the indelible MC. So that's actually how I had met El Producto of Company Flow. I actually met Mr. Len first. Shout out to Len. I actually met DJ Len, Mr. Len first at Wetlands. Shout out to Wetlands. That club is closed now. Shout out to Robert De Niro, who would call the police on us. Robert De Niro and a bunch of his neighbors, they live up the block from Wetlands. So they would constantly, when I must admit, when you let out a club, it's loud. Okay. So we were fucking up their 2 a.m.s and their 4 a.m.s. So they quickly shut that down. But shout out to Wetlands. We did a lot of shit there with the Roots, a lot of stuff there with the Indelible MCs. And that included, LP. So that's how I actually met L. It was through the Juggernauts.
Dope.
Shout out to the Jugs. They will be on the new Cannibal Ox album. So,
Dope.
Yeah,
That's
man.
awesome, man. We just talked to Breeze. His new record is great. He's such a cool guy.
I love him, and I'm going to go on record. Breeze is the only dude that can see me. All right. I said it. That's the only dude that I will allow to see me, okay? Everyone else, you in for the battle of your life. I will submit the win to Breeze. Yo, that's my brother. I love him.
Oh, great dude. Vast, do you think of the Cold Vein as a science fiction kind of thing, or was it that it was reflecting your real life circumstances? Or can it be both?
It can be both. We don't have to be rigid, We could be a little more loose. It's a little of both, but don't get it twisted. I would say it's 60% real life. And I'm sure you can hear that. I don't have to, push that. It probably feels like it's 80% real life. It's 60% real life and 40% of creativity. Okay? So when I said my first fight was me against 5 boroughs, that's more like 3 dudes trying to rob me. I'm not actually fighting 5 districts in New York. So, that line perfectly, but because I was a bigger kid, nobody wanted to do a fair one with me. So if I got into beef, I'm fighting 2-3 people all the time. So that's the truth of that line. The exaggeration is I'm fighting the 5 boroughs of New York. And that's what makes the line creative. That's what makes it entertaining.
Word.
The little jazz on it that you throw on it. The literal line is, I would have to freak how I could never have a fair one. I probably had 2 fair ones in my life, and they were similar size to me. So that don't even count. You know what I mean? When can I get the advantage? You know what I mean? Nobody wanted me to have the advantage. So that's what life is. That's a metaphor. That's a metaphor for life. Nobody wants you to have the advantage. You gotta work hard and go get it. It's an iron galaxy out there, gentlemen. You know what I mean?
Getting the life advice, appreciate it. Can you talk a little bit about what do you think the lasting impact and influence of Cold Vein is? I feel like I hear it in other rappers. I'm not trying to name anybody, but I feel like it was a very influential.
He's like, I'm not gonna name. I'll name some. You won't get in trouble.
Okay. Please.
I get what you're saying. Finish what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
So I'm just trying to tee up. Can you talk a little bit about the lasting impact of the record and how you see its influence, 20 years later?
Wow. Well, first of all, I just gotta say, blessings to our fans and to the people that understand our music. I first and foremost gotta just thank you because you took that time. You knew there was something special, and you took that time and you ran and told 5 other people. So I gotta say I love our fans, and I love, you guys for even caring about the history. So first, I got to shout out the fans and the press and the true press that tries to get real hip hop to the fans. 20 years later, I'm shocked. I knew it was a good record. I know we know how to rhyme. I know that L makes great beats. And I knew that me and L together are a ridiculous force. Because I have a way of taming him. He could go off tangent where there's no room for the vocalist. So I have a way of toning him down to where, all right, L, stop right there, and now we have a pocket for the vocalist. And he smiles because he knows he can zone off. So us together is that's what you hear, he would make something and I would go extend this. Let's make this a hook. Let's make this a bridge. And that's what you're hearing. And you're also hearing the rawness. Remember when Mega, Shamar, remember when Mega goes, I don't have an end piece on Ox, out the cage. That was honest. He said his verse, and then he just turned from the mic, like, I don't have an ending. And we were like, that's hot. You can hear us in the background. So it's those honest moments, or like on Raspberry, where I messed up my line and started the freestyle. And I waved at L, because L was going to start it over. I waved at him to leave it.
That's dope.
So it's those honest moments where I mess up and start freestyling, but then I do the verse again, but then it actually works with the concept of my line, which deals with reincarnation.
Okay.
So the mess up worked. It was like, you know what I mean? It was perfect. It was perfect. We use mess ups. We make mess ups look like fucking genius shit, because it is.
Art. Yeah.
What I mean? It is. I love that time just working on that album. It was a lot of hard work. We wanted to be talking about this album 20 years later. Here we are, and it's a blessing, Blessings to Mega, blessings to L. We made a great record. We made a lot of great music, but that particular record, I'm going to be talking about that record until I die. Definitely.
I really appreciate you sort of exploring the relationship with LP. Obviously, I mean, he made the beats that are killer, but the other big component to this album would be the chemistry between you and Vordul Mega.
Oh yes.
Talk about that working process. Talk about how you guys combine thoughts and ideas and made it happen.
Oh yeah, Mega is amazing. He has a unique style, and he's the real artist. He doesn't care about anything. He's never on time. If you look at our interview history, I always do all of the interviews. He's there sometimes. Like, we have to twist his goddamn arm and put a gun to his head to make him do an interview, for real. He could care less about any of the spotlight, none of that. So he is the artist's artist, and he's really, and he's an emotional artist, and I think all of the fans know that. It's all through his music, right? You know what I mean? Right. It's all through his music, and our dynamic works because I'm the silver lining. So it's like he's the gray cloud, I'm the silver lining. And that's why people liked our dynamic. That's our friendship, you know? That's our friendship. Shamar be at every party, but he's just to himself. He's quiet. He's elusive. And over the years, he struggled with depression, you know? So he pulls back from time to time, you know? And we just want him to feel at peace. When he's at peace, he'll get in the lab with us and spaz out. And that's what we love, you know what I mean? It's like we just wait for the werewolf, you know what I mean? Right. When he's at peace, he becomes like the music werewolf. And then like, you know what I mean? We work with him. I don't never want to force anything on him or manipulate him. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man.
And when he's in that zone, he's an incredible.
When he's in that zone, we're like, yo, we're here, let's go. Or let's just watch some fucking karate movies for a week. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Whenever he's in that zone, you know, and when he's in that zone, trust me and our close friends, or even my man Cosmic, when he's in that zone, we're all like, look, keep your ear to the street. Let's get him in the lab. You know, so it's always a good thing.
Vast, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about Blade of the Ronin. And I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but it was much better than I expected it to be. After such a long kind of gap between official projects, I know you guys did a lot in between then, but it's an incredible record, and I feel like a little bit underheard. I don't know if you feel that way, and maybe if you could just touch on how that all came together and talk about the record a little.
Yeah, much love. Yeah, Blade of the Ronin is a great record. Blade of the Ronin needs its time. Okay, Cold Vein has 20 years. At the time, it had 14. So, 14 against 0, it's like, you got to give this album some time to breathe. You got to play it a couple of times. You got to get high with it. You got to break up with a girl with it. You got to get a new girlfriend with it. Just like you did with Cold Vein. And then you can properly judge it. And You know what's funny? 7 years later, the album is selling out like crazy. We can't keep it in stores. People love the vinyl, and people love the music that we make. They love the realm that we know how to create. And Blade of the Ronin had a lot on its shoulders.
Right.
Because there was no LP on the record. There was this mystery of like, is it gonna sound good? And that's disrespectful to all the great music that me and Shamar have always been a part of. If we're together or separate, or even as Cannibal Ox, when we don't have a LP beat. That we, I took that a little personal. And everyone else laughed it off. I took it a little personal because I felt like y'all should know how much we love doing the music. That we're not gonna put something out that is lackluster. You might have your favorites, but I couldn't ask anybody to show me a whack joint I did. Like, you might have your favorites, you might have your preference, but is this whack? You know what I mean? So I felt, and that's also respect to what we've done. I get it.
Right.
It's the respect to what we've done.
It's a high bar to clear.
There's a high bar. I totally get it. but I was offended. You know what I mean? Shout out to the fans that constantly offend me. They'll constantly hurt my feelings all the time. It's okay though. It's a family relationship. Family hurts you sometimes. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
True that.
Family hurts. You know what I mean? And then we laugh it off and we move on. You know what I mean? So I just want the fans to know that we're genuine. And I think after 20 goddamn years of all of this music, you know what I mean? Whether it be 2 Cannibal Ox full lengths, a couple of mixtapes and an EP, and that's Can Ox. Right. Then you have Vordul solo stuff. Right. You have my solo stuff. You have our stuff with Adam's Family. Right. You have our stuff with Def Jux. There's so much shit that, like, after 20 years, everyone was getting scared. You know what I mean? But I'm glad the reviews were great.
Yeah.
The record sounds phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The record just sounds phenomenal. So, and it's a different record. And that was the whole point. Mm. We wanted Cold Vein to be Cold Vein, and we wanted Blade of the Ronin to be Blade of the Ronin. And we want Oxcalibur to be Oxcalibur. And, you know, we're going to continue. The next album coming from Cannibal Ox is Oxcalibur.
Dope.
And it's serious. It's a serious record. As I've mentioned in interviews before and online, Shamar retired after Blade of the Ronin.
Okay.
However, we still have some interesting treats, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, as you know, we worked on some shit, you know. I kind of brought him out of retirement to get some shit done. Right. And you know, we're gonna move on in a classic fashion, but we have some classic mega. So it's interesting. It's a great record.
Okay. So this year, Oxcalibur.
Yeah. Oxcalibur is this year, hopefully. The single, I can guarantee that we'll have singles. And I'm in some discussions with some people right now. So we're trying to finalize the album. There's a few more people we got to work with.
Okay.
Hopefully I could get the album done by Halloween.
Okay.
If I get this album done by Halloween, we could get it out.
Okay.
You know, it's just a handful of key people that we want to get involved, you know. I'm definitely reaching out to L. I want him to be a part of it.
Dope.
You know, and I want the fans to know that we want him to be a part of it. So that's going to be dope. That's going to be interesting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Some crazy shit. We're going to have to do some nutty shit. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I'm already working on the Juggernaut joint.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's going to be crazy. I'm working on a joint with Camp Low. It's a lot of fun things. There's some fun things going on. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, shout out to Ill Bill. You know what I mean? I'm gonna just sprinkle a couple of names, letting y'all know how we coming, and it's gonna come. So.
Okay. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. But you also mentioned you got some interesting singles that you're going to be dropping. You have some work with Doom, which we haven't heard, correct?
Yes. The first single that's going to come out, just so I could get everything clear, the first single that's coming out is Metal Ox. It has an A and a B side, and that comes out May 15th digitally worldwide. We will have a physical for it. We're setting that up. And also, and that's the 20th anniversary of Cold Vein. So I need everybody to be spinning that and repping that. And it sounds so great. Once you hear it, it's just gonna hit. So, matter of fact, drop that, yo. Drop that.
Let's go.
Drop that, yo. Let them get a taste, yo.
Wow.
Turn that up. Try not to turn it up too high.
Yeah, life still, but it's still when your mama dies. She returns to the essence beyond the skies. You ever been mad before? Please miss me with your bullshit. I am not your matador. I grew up in the illest hoods where dudes don't talk, but they face say I wish you would. I'm like Malik Wood, cause I can talk to these birds. You wish you could. I got 700. You think that's abundant? Never mind. I'm about to add 300. Cause we are more than 300. Who's defeated the Romans? Sat back and they got blooded. The truth I will never covet. And when it comes to this mic, we never front it. Never front it. I was reborn in hell. Then I came back to the surface with this about. Wise as a scholar be, gained independence from the freedom of colleges. Now it streams down for me. Ever since a kid got in the problems with police, came out of belief, came living grand on the path within the man has seen solid books. My walk inside it, the hit the gas, moving fast like Jesus. Tires still off the same hard pounding. Word.
Hey.
So y'all know, you know what I mean? Just
That was crazy.
just
Thank
so
you.
can get a
Dope.
taste,
That's
you
so
know what I
dope. Thank
mean?
you.
You know what I
Damn.
mean?
Don't bite our face, but we appreciate it.
Yes, we bite face. That's our rap. That's our slogan. I should trademark that, yo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, we've been biting faces for 20 years. But yo, seriously though, just so now y'all understand me,
Mm-hmm.
there's a vibe that we come with.
Mm-hmm.
There's a realm. This ain't no regular shit. Like this is some special shit. And that's why we don't play around with our artwork. We don't play around with our subject matter. There's a lot of layers. We can have fun with the best of them, but all of y'all know that we're serious. We could touch on politics. We could touch on spirituality. And we could just touch on some real everyday life shit. And that's what Cypher Unknown is about. That's what Cannibal Ox is about. When you hear it, it's a feeling. It's a feeling. You can't fake. Can you fake what you just heard?
Nope, not at all.
You cannot fake what you just heard. And that's Metal Ox right there. And we in the year of the Metal Ox, so it's about to get real.
Oh man.
You know what I mean? The B side is called Raspberry Jelly.
Okay.
It's crazy. It's mad hood, and it's featuring my man Double AB.
Okay.
So it's crazy. Like, you know, Cannibal Ox is back. Be like,
Yeah.
we never went nowhere. It's been 20 years of nonstop music.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that 2 records are called Cannibal Ox.
Yeah.
But it's us. We don't. Clark Kent is Superman.
Right.
I might put on some glasses sometimes, but if that bus hit me, it's going. I ain't gonna get hurt. You know what I mean?
Go bounce off.
So it's like, y'all, just like your man said, it's like, yo, Vast is using his real voice.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's been hearing me for 20 yeez. I'm not in the mic booth like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm in the booth on some real shit. You can tell it's just me exaggerating.
Mm-hmm.
You too. You got a voice like that too.
Wow, that's your interview.
That's my interview.
I'm just saying, maybe
Shout out to Raised by Wolves. We gonna be in the lab. You know, we got plenty of drinks to finish up. So I'm gonna get him in the lab. You know what I mean? It's a good brother I've been building with for a couple of years. So you know what I mean? Man. Yeah, man. Yo, like I said, we real. We love what we do, and like I said, The proof is in the pudding. I had to let y'all hear it because we just mastered it.
Sounds great, man. Sounds fantastic.
Can't wait.
It sounded real. Is this? Come on, be.
We can't wait.
Yes.
We can't wait, man. We are very
That's what I need.
snap.
That's what I need to hear. No yes men here. With no yes men.
No.
We be eating dinner with dudes like, you gotta drop that verse again. All right, pass the song. Like, word, like we don't play over here, man. I'll be like, word,
absolutely not. That was you know what?
You gotta tweak that bass. You know, I'll tell a producer in a second that bass gotta come up. Like, don't be stingy with the bass, yo. Yeah, man, but you know, we're just honest. That's how you get the best out of your crew.
Absolutely.
Right.
Stop being a yes man to your man. If you my man, I need you to tell me the truth.
Because I'm gonna tell you the truth in a way to where
they gonna lie to me outside.
Well, it's that, but you know, like you can't use the truth like a weapon in the way people do. Like a lot of people like to use the truth in a way that's gonna undermine someone's confidence. But if you use the truth to sharpen the blade, so to speak, you get a level of fine tuning that the public needs. So a lot of times when you do hear, you know, like the editors are the ones that aren't credited, but it helps that author's voice really be known. So a lot of times it is the crew. You know, it's those people around you who, you know, like if Vaz was to ask me what his opinion is, like just because I want him to like me, I'm not, you know, like if I don't feel it, I'll just be like, and you know, of course, you know, I'm not just gonna be dismissive to words. I'll be like, oh, like you whack B or what? It's not about it's not about that. It's just more or less is up there like, you know, when you were at your most great, you were hitting these points or whatever. Like right now, you're not hitting these points. So in order for you to be at your greatness or whatever, I'm close enough to let you know that okay, you hit these points before, hit these points again. In this way. That's what I'm talking about. Because I'm going to get lied to in the street. They're going to butter me up. Yeah. You know what I mean? They want me to do a song. They want me to do a show. They're going to butter me up. Yeah. I need my team to be real. Right. When we cut a record, you got to give me that instinct. Yeah. And the first thing I saw you nodding your head, and I was like, I'm good. Because that's what it's about. It's that head nod. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Steel sharpen steel.
Steel sharpen steel. He's a good musician. He know how it should sound. You know what I mean? Shout out to Sharp, Raised by Wolves, Cincinnati in the house. You know what we do. You know what I mean? Shout out to my Cincinnati team. I'm New York via Cincinnati, so you know.
That's what's
Shout
up.
out to Talib. It is what it is. Shout out to Copyright. Shout out to Metro. Word up. Me and Metro are about from SA Smash. Rest in peace to Kamuteo. We about to spaz on y'all because I got some unreleased Kamuteo beats.
Okay.
It's about to go down.
Okay, you heard it here. You heard it here first. Vast Aire, thank you so much for your time, man. We just really appreciate being able to chop it up, hear some new music, and just we're huge fans, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yo, thank you. And I want to keep y'all posted. Keep your ear on my Instagram. I will be updating the fans from Instagram, Twitter, and my Facebook. And my YouTube. My Instagram and Twitter is Vast Aire 2090. That's VASTAIRE 2090. That's my official page. All real fans hit me up. Stay updated. Word up.
Even your handles are a bar.
Man.
Bass, I don't know if you can see this. This is you in the basement of Fat Beats Amsterdam, summer '99. I took this picture with a disposable camera at a Company Flow show for Little Johnny from the Hospital. That's you holding the Company Flow patriotism record. That's some crazy
Oh
shit.
my God, I miss those camos. Holy shit, I had on the camos. I had on the little camouflage. I miss those. Those were like my most comfortable pants. Oh my God, yo, that's peace, fam. So you saw us rock in Europe.
Yeah. One of the best days of my life.
That was, if I'm correct, that was 99. Yo, you fucking with me right now, man. Yo, this brother right here saw me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're doing an interview, B.
You already know. Your album came out on my birthday. That's why I saw it.
Fam, nah,
I want to let you know this is some real fan shit.
You don't understand because there's a Fat Beats in New York.
Right.
We were in the Fat Beats in Amsterdam.
Okay. Wow.
And he was in the room.
Yeah, that's it. Wow.
And he took that picture with a disposable. Yo, that's props. You gotta send that to me.
I will.
I gotta post that on Instagram.
Absolutely.
And big up that I did your show.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
We'll do it around the time when we drop this interview, which should be very soon. It was a real pleasure to meet you today, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man. And we can talk again when the music drops.
Yeah,
we'd love that.
We would love to.
Again. You know what I mean? I love what y'all are doing for the culture. Get the real music to the culture, man.
Hell yes.
Somebody's got to do it.
Absolutely.
Get the real shit. You know, a lot of us, look how much Doom has done.
Right.
And look how fast he's gone. So the real people like y'all and other blog spots and other podcasts, it's up to y'all. Y'all, because think about it. It's y'all that are showing us the bullshit.
Yeah.
So who's really in control of hip hop?
Right.
Uh-oh. Now I'm the interviewer now. I done took the interview position from them. Now they're froze. They're in the spotlight now. You understand? Like, think about it. Who really controls hip hop?
Right.
If you, this is my engineer. Let me shout him out. This is my engineer, Sewell Music. We're at Space Lab Studios. Is he on camera?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys?
You know what I mean? If you own the magazine and you showing the bullshit,
right.
who do we blame? So if you own the podcast,
Right.
if you own the website, the podcast, the magazine,
Right.
and you keep showing us the bullshit,
Mhm.
do I blame the artist
Right.
or do I blame
The
you?
platform. Yeah.
So
Platform and the outlet.
So we gotta big up the platforms that show the real shit, and I just want to shout y'all out, man, for real.
We appreciate
Thank you so
that,
much, man. It means a lot.
We go keep doing it.
Much love, and we'll talk again. You know what I mean? When the music drops, it's all good.
Sounds good.
There it is.
Vast.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much,
Much
Vast.
love to y'all. I gotta finish this single so it'll sound good when it drops.
There it is.
Love
Thank
it.
you
Vast
so much,
Aire,
man.
ladies and gentlemen. Be well, brother.
Appreciate
Much love.
you.
Peace and love, y'all. Word up.
Man, so that was an interview. If you guys didn't catch that, we decided to go off the rip, just give you the interview straight off the top of the show. And, we'll be honest, this was Nate LeBlanc's call. Nate, why were you like, fucking intro? I'm going Acapulco? Why did you feel it merited that?
This interview like energized me and our whole deal. Like we did this interview came about in a couple of weird ways. Obviously, we'd always want to talk to anyone involved in Cannibal Ox, Def Jux. Like, I'm a huge Vast fan. I was always a Vast guy, which we can talk about like within the context of the group. But I've really come to appreciate Vordul, and I feel that Vordul is incredibly influential in the kind of music we like now. But we can talk about that later. The reason I thought this interview went so great is like Vast did kind of a call. He was like, okay, the anniversary's coming up. Podcasters, interviewers, journalists, get at me. I'm ready to talk about it. So it was like, sent that to Dave. It's like, let's get this scheduled. It was scheduled at a weird time for us. It was a weekend. It was like we kind of rearranged our whole lives to do this. And sometimes when we do that, you get a little grumpy pants and you're like, like, you know, I could have been doing this, but I got to do it. It becomes like a chore. This never felt like a chore. And Vast, I described it to someone in text today. He had like a volcanic amount of energy.
Totally.
It was just like he's like that volcano in Iceland that's just bursting, and there's drone footage of like his crazy like ideas flying around. And so I just thought, let's give people a taste of like what it's really like to talk to someone like this, like someone.
Like for us, like from our perspective, like when we log in and it's just like
you never know what's gonna happen. Like you never know. Like
you never know.
There's always a little preamble part where we're like, I'm Nate, I'm Dave, and this is the show, and
right.
Ask you some questions, and that like sometimes that just doesn't need to happen. It just goes.
Yeah,
and so
I mean,
I just thought it was a good like a peek behind the curtain.
I think it's a peek behind the curtain, but also just like a very, very timely one. Just to give people a little bit of background, like I've reached out to Vast before just to try to get it going, and you know, we exchanged a couple emails here and there, but he seemed kind of flaky. So that's why when you sent me his IG post, I was a little nervous, but he got back to us right away. We set the date well in advance, so you know, I'm twiddling my thumbs as the date nears, just thinking he's gonna flake, you know, but it was far the opposite of that, man. Not only did he not flake, I mean, the interview is one of the most engaging ones we've ever had. He was literally in a studio. It was almost a performative interview. And I mean, it couldn't have landed at a better time. I mean, as we're celebrating the brilliance of Cannibal Ox's Cold Vein, 20 years, you know, and I was just talking to Nate a little bit earlier, like, yeah, man, like some albums you check out of and then you like re-listen to again. And this is one of those where like I kind of stopped listening like years ago and then was like, fuck, dude, this is brilliant. This is so brilliant. It really is like a moment of magic, you know, that is tied into the Def Jux universe, but this was totally captured in that. And what a fucking amazing interview. I'm so glad.
And he was excited about it. I think that's what that's because, you know, again, in kind of interacting with different artists, people view their older work different ways, right?
Right.
Some folks really want to talk about the new shit. A lot of cats are, you know, definitely willing to and appreciative of people bigging up their old stuff. But I think what stood out in this interview for me is that Vast seemed to understand what Cold Vein is in the fans' imagination.
Right.
And he really leaned into that and kind of gave you the goods, which isn't always the case. Someday we'll have a YouTube channel and you will see how live and fly guys like Vast Aire are. But I really felt like he was excited to do it. He understands the relevance and the you know, the history that's there. And he talked about it a little bit in the interview. And that just all came across. It was a great interview. I loved how he was just pulling in the engineer and the homie that was on the couch. And I'm like, we were on the Vast Aire show. So I want to thank him for for having us on. Cold Vein turns 20 this year. We talked about it with Vast, but I wanted to get you guys' takes on the phrase, like, how something has aged is probably a little bit overused and loaded at this point. But given that we've been relatively tapped into the culture, you know, rap's progression for the last 20 years, how relevant is Cold Vein today? Given where rap, was in that era, where it is now, Nate LeBlanc, how does it sit in the modern context?
It sits prominently. I think it's really, really important record, not because it captures its time frame so well. It's one of the best underground rap records. Like, I think the combo of LP at that time and these two guys with their two very distinct styles, they made a classic. They made an all-timer. It really, really represents the kind of backpack culture well. Like, this is kind of the best of that time. And you could look at some Aesop Rock from that time. You could look at some RJD2 from that time. There are a lot of good records that came out of that camp at that time, but this one is special. There's something a little bit more than the sum of its parts, and I think Vordul in particular, and the way he clusters his rhymes and his non-linear thinking is really, really prominently evident in some of the rappers that we are super into now. Like, in particular, Billy Woods, who's like a friend of Vordul's, who's like Vordul's hugely important to his narrative. That's a direct connection, but it's also just kind of taking the a gauzy or I don't know how else to put it. There's two different kinds of LP beats on this, right? There's kind of your gauzy B-Boys alpha, synthed out kind of thing, and then there's just like your bone crushing, like that scene at the beginning of Terminator 2 where the Terminator steps on the skull and like breaks it. With just the metal foot, like that's the other side of things, right? So like those two kinds of beats remain to be prominent. Probably we've gone a little bit more in the gauzy direction, but like both these guys can rap their ass off. Like, the rapping is so good, and it would be hard to rise to the level of LP's production here, which is brilliant by any measure. But like, it's cool, man. It all came together, and I think it's a really important and great record.
Yeah, Dave, to your mind, how does it hold up these days?
I was just telling Nate, a lot of the early 2000s stuff I was fully immersed in, but then kind of checked out, and some of that stuff you go back to revisit it, to your point earlier, using the term aging well, not all of it does, and I had a few years where I'm like, I listened to Cold Vein so much that I'm not like dying to throw it on and hear, Raspberry Fields again. But having done that, like, again recently, around 20 years, and around the 20-year anniversary was just astounding. And to Nate's point, a lot of the music that we're into now, the Arm & Hammer, for instance, I don't think that would exist if not, if the Giants didn't exist before them. You know what I mean? Right. They're on the shoulders of giants, right? So I think it's an incredible record, and not only because of like sort of the time capsule nature of it. I think it's important because it's just overtly unique, and everybody was just capturing magic. LP, I mean, we're seeing like early to mid-level LP production here, and to see this as a starting point and what he did with Van Dam and we're all gonna burn in hell mega mix is just ridiculous, and we're not even at Run the Jewels yet. So I think in retrospect, this is one of the best rap albums of all time.
Okay, you heard it here from Dave Ma. I feel like a group like Cannibal Ox for me was like life support. 01 was a time where I think underground rap in certain circles had just ran its creative course. Like, there wasn't much left to say, and I was finding myself increasingly kind of just burnt, dabbling in more mainstream stuff, trying to wrap my mind around like Jay-Z and all that stuff I had slept on for years and years in the early 2000s. But Cold Vein for me represented that, like, hey, there's still this really raw creative approach to the culture, and I'll call it out here. And it wasn't just white guys. It wasn't just like a bunch of underground, hip hop nerd white cats. I mean, there was a white cat masterminding the whole shit, but it came across, it had a street edge to it. It had, I'll say, Afro futuristic vibes to it that not all the releases of that time had. And so that for me, I remember listening to that. And as we talk about Arm & Hammer and other of their kind of, things that grew out of that movement. I definitely think that's one of the things is that there was a time when this type of record for a Black artist was just considered like suicidal. It's like, what are you doing? Like you're not dealing drugs. Like you're not in the club. You're unabashedly, making this kind of art, but also street type of rap. So I think for me, listening to it again in preparation for the interview, I was struck by how sensibilities wise, they're so spot on with what is like hot now. And I know that's not why they did it, but their particular approach and just their kind of whole crew. I mean, we have this interesting streak right now where we're talking to folks with these Midwest connections. But it was just an incredible time for that whole crew, for Def Jux, for the Weathermen. And so, yeah, I was definitely, this record kind of invigorated my interest in underground hip hop and made me believe again that you can make a truly underground record and that shit be hard.
Right. Just a couple things on we've kind of been circling this, doing an episode like this for a while. Friend of the program and fellow hip hop podcaster Alaska has a hot verse on this project.
Yes.
And friend of the program and one of the only people we've ever interviewed in person, actually in San Jose, NASA, Uncommon NASA.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
This whole record, and we talked to him pretty extensively about like his role mixing this and working at with Ozone artists and all that stuff within like what seems like 5 years ago, but it was actually about
a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Ago. So anyway, it's just kind of cool. Like we've been able to circle around this, and now we talk to the dude who made the record, and like
totally,
he's so himself. Like Vast Aire is one of those hip hop characters where you just can't imagine him being anything else but a rapper. Like what job would he have with that? Like he's huge.
UPS, like that
was. I was about to say Vast Aire would smash at T-Mobile though. You kept a fair one with this phone, son.
But like us talking about just the personnel on the album reminds me that the album is essentially a one-off, right? I mean, there's the Cannibal Ox, the Blade of the Ronin, which was like 13 years later or whatever, which Nate and I were talking about off camera as well. It's great. However, I mean, the Cold Vein was just like a meeting of the minds during like a sliver of time, and for it to just sort of resonate 20 years later to not only new cats but cats like us, I think speaks volumes.
Yeah, and I feel like to that point of like it was a particular point in time. It's when LP had leveraged his company Flow success to bear fruit for other artists, and so I feel like without LP being where he was to provide it the platform, I don't know if it's as widely heard or understood. In fact, I'm going to go on a limb and say it just wouldn't, because there weren't a lot of outlets for an album like that at that time. And LP was the one person who was occupying that space during his Def Jux run, which was not super long, but had some really classic records on it. And so I think, his influence, both as the label head and as a producer, lending cachet to it in terms of who we knew him to be with Company Flow and the respect that folks had for him. I think it edges towards the timelessness. And Dave, you threw out one of the greatest rap albums of all time, and I'd love to interrogate that further, but it definitely has a timelessness that not a lot of records of that time had, and we were all fortunate enough to kind of experience it too at the same time. It wasn't like a real underground where like you find it 5 years later or something.
Right. And I think we should introduce at this point, like Open Mike Eagles podcast, What Had Happened Was, did LP, Def Jux, Cold Vein episode last week. I think our episode that you're hearing right now is a really interesting mirror to that, and they should be kind of listened to
companion.
In companions, it's kind of like here's what LP said about it, here's what Vast said about it.
Right.
I'd love to talk to Vordul someday. It seems like he stays out of the public eye, and that's the best thing for him, and I respect that. But it's funny. I've talked about this on the show before, and I'll keep it brief. But one of my favorite pieces of set dressing in a recent movie is that in the movie Lady Bird, which takes place in Sacramento in 2002, Timothy Chalamet's character has a Cannibal Ox cold vein flat in his room, and it's like he's the exact kind of like pretentious little shit, I guess is the only way I could put it, that I was at that age. And so it's just like, it's just perfect. Like it's, and that was the time when that movie came out, and I really liked that movie. That I was like, oh man, the cold vein, like that's a placeholder for a certain kind of thinking, right? It represents something that wasn't put there by mistake. And it wasn't like how in Encino Man, Sean Astin has a Organized Confusion poster, but then he looks like he listens to Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right.
This kid would really have been messing with Def Jux, like with the underground. And like, how underground is it if it's in the same stores as, other stuff? This isn't Fondulum, right? This is like a more substantial, available type of underground rap. But if you listen to the record, it's very uncompromising. They're saying exactly what they want to say. They're doing exactly what they want to do. And if I had any criticism at this point, I would say it's probably a song or two too long. That's the only thing I could say.
100%.
Which in the CD era, you kind of have to allow for that. Like albums were definitely longer. It's a 4 vinyl, no? It's no 2.
It's 2.
It should be 2.
And then LP did release the instrumentals as 2, so it's like kind of
the
Oxtramentals. I mean, this album, I mean, it's one of those things where you throw on and it feels like a moment, not an album. You know what I mean? So I'm delighted that we had, one of the main cats on, and Vast Aire is just oozing with presence, man. So I'm just, it's one of those where like, you talk to the rapper and it's just like a direct, a direct placement. Yeah. Like just direct connection. And so, I mean, the second he says, "What's up?" It's like, whoa, this is Iron Galaxy right now,
You knew it was on, and he was gracious enough to even play a joint with it, which you heard if you listen to it. And so I believe that's the first time that's happened in 166 episodes. So I feel like, when an artist is excited about their own work, especially something that happened so long ago, I can speak to the perspective of, whatever level of journeyman artist that I am. I get somewhat irritated when folks only want to talk about a thing that I did, many, many years ago. But he understands, like I said at the outset, how important this is to a certain type of fan. And also, he mentioned having some new stuff, which was also exciting. He's got a Doom track that he's about to release, and there's another Cannibal Ox record on the way, which I'm excited about in the sense that I think rap is caught up to them, where they were probably out ahead in 2001. So, I appreciate Cold Vein and kind of just excited to connect with some of the newer works. So, we here at Dead Bod Rap Pod, we'll flip it up, we'll change it up. We set precedents and then we break them. And we appreciate everybody tuning in for our conversation with Vast Aire. I want to double on the point that Nate made. You should listen to What Had Happened Was on Wednesdays, right? Correct. They drop their new episodes on Wednesdays. We drop Thursday. And so the last couple weeks, there's been some interesting alignment, and I don't want to give away too much, but we're kind of keeping on that thread, kind of unintentionally, which is really interesting. I don't necessarily plan for it.
I wish we had planned all this stuff out, but it's just like the way it rolls. Also, Can't Knock the Shuffle on Mondays, or as I have now started calling it, the Shuff.
Nice.
When you're on a first text basis with Kantrowitz, you can do that. I'm going to refer to it as Can't Knock the Shuffle. On Mondays, you know, the Stony Island mothership keeps cruising along. A lot of amazing programming, great hip hop storytelling, and I kind of want to hold that up. I saw some of Mike's tweets about getting frustrated that the mainstream media doesn't understand or respect that hip hop has these stories and that people want to hear them.
Yeah, I mean, this is documentation. So, I mean, as much as like as disappointing at it as it is that, you know, it's not really getting the shine that it does. Like, it needs to be done. And so, you know, I'm really glad Mike's doing it, and I'm really glad that we're doing it. And we, you know, it has to just be done internally, because otherwise you don't want some like intern from like some, you know, label documenting LP. You want Mike Eagle doing that. You want us talking to Vast Aire. So, you know, I'm very happy to see everything coming together. Absolutely.
And it's great because, you know, we're involved with the culture. And, you know, we're inching towards the day when, you know, some of these outlets will pay for some of these stories. But we are the trailblazers of this, and we're proud to be a part of the Stony Island Audio Network. As you know, we are on social media at Bod Rap Pod on Twitter, at Bod Rap Pod on IG. We are selling mugs. Look, it's mugs or drugs, people. You buy the mugs, you keep us from going back in the kitchen. But yeah, we still have some mugs left. You can check out our pinned Instagram and Twitter feeds and click to find out how to get yours for you and your family. Is there a gift giving season coming up? I'm trying to connect this. For Mother's Day, for every mom needs a dad bod mug. So cop the mug, help us stay afloat as a podcast and continue bringing this great storytelling that you've come to expect here from the Bod Rap Pod. So with that, we will adjourn for this episode. This is the Bod Rap Pod.
Stony Island Audio.